everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm excited to chat with you guys a little bit on the Venus ingress into the sign of Leo. This is probably going to be one of several videos that we'll be doing on this topic because, well, Venus is going to spend 4 months in the sign of Leo. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western and an evolutionary astrologer. I work both with the art of tarot as well as interpreting what's going on in the cosmos using the Sabian symbols. If you guys like my content and you want to see more of it, make sure you give me a thumbs up and click the button below so you're subscribed. We've got new videos coming out on the channel every couple days, horoscopes, new moons, full moons, and much more in between. I break down a lot of these aspects as we go on through midweek. And this is a very big topic. So if you guys want more insight, if you're going to go, where is this happening in my natal chart? Go and check out my horoscopes. I talk about the complex T-square and all the fixed squares that are going on between Venus and Mars this month. I show it to you visually with the rising sign and tell you what should be playing out. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about Venus's ingress, some food for thought in terms of her transits. I will not be discussing really much at all the Venus retrograde because Venus will not retrograde until the end of July, but we will see Venus going through making some aspects actually in June that she will retrograde and make again. If you guys saw my video that I put out on Tuesday, I talk a lot about how we're going to see this kind of happen in waves. And the truth is just very complex astrology, oppositions to Pluto, squares to the node. We're going to feel like we're in between a rock and a hard place. But I'm trying to kind of show it to you guys and simplify it, make it seem a little bit more so clear. And I want to focus more on just what may be happening, what some of the themes are when it comes to Venus's ingress. And I will be doing another video in July more about the Venus retrograde. As most of you guys know, we'll be seeing Venus also come into shadow in the month of June. So part of the reason why I wanted to put this video out was not just to kind of touch on the ingress, but also those of you guys who might have a personal planetary placement in Leo. You might be a Leo sun, moon, or rising. Maybe your Venus is in Leo. Or you just want to know how the Venus retrograde is going to affect you. I feel like there's something to learn for every single one of the 12 rising signs. And I just want you guys to, at the very least, read your horoscope this month or listen to your June horoscopes. But I'm also going to be doing a live webinar. So we're going to be doing this on June the 11th. It's going to be on a Sunday, several hours long. It's all going to be about Venus's retrograde. We're going to take a look at past Venus retrograde cycles. We're also going to be talking about why this one is so significant, especially since the South Node will be moving into Libra. We're seeing activations in Leo and Libra, which is all about romance, love, true love. And I definitely see a lot of karmic relationship type themes happen when Venus goes retrograde. So those of you guys who follow like the twin flame stuff, or maybe you've been back and forth in relationships, maybe you're somebody who's hoping to reconnect, or you're trying to go deeper in a relationship with a pre-existing partner. Maybe you're hoping to find love and get back out there. I have a little bit of information for all of the different scenarios for you guys because Venus retrogrades can be a time where we introduce love back into our life, and it can be almost like a cosmic kind of clearing out period, so we can kind of make the adjustments necessary when it comes to love and also our finances. So join me on June 11th. It'll be 12 o'clock p.m. Central, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and 1 p.m. Eastern time. If you can't make it live, no worries. We're going to send you the link and you can watch the playback, so you can go back and watch it as much as you want, especially throughout the summer, because those of you guys who take the webinar, you're going to have all of this information a month before the retrograde happens. You're going to have time to prepare. You're going to know what to expect. You're going to know all the dates where things are going to get triggered. I'm putting together a really awesome lecture with PDFs to give you guys all of this information for the dates to watch, but also remedies, what crystals or stones to work with, what herbs to work with, specific dates that I think that might be helpful for also releasing karma in relationships, setting intentions, and connecting to Venus, and much more. So please join me if you guys want to check that out. I hope that you can make it. All right, so thank you for letting me do the shameless plug. So let's just get the bare bones out of the way. So we are going to see Venus planet of love and relationships and abundance and pleasure, moving into the fixed fire sign of Leo. This will be taking place on June the 5th. That's when the ingress happens. And because Venus will go retrograde in July, she will spend 40 days and 40 nights going to the underworld and coming back. That will extend the period of time that Venus is actually hanging out in this sign. So we will get 4 months of Venus in Leo. I'm going to talk to you guys about the pros and the cons of that. But for the most part, I'm actually really excited. I'm excited to see this play out. I'm excited to see some of the aspects, both to the nodes, which is definitely going to be pretty life-changing, but also I'm really curious to see how some of these squares play out as well. This will be felt the most by obviously Leo, Taurus, and Libra risings. If you happen to have any personal planets in Leo, that's going to be within the 12 to 28 degrees of the retrograde. You will experience Venus retrograding over a planet. Essentially, Venus in general, though, when she's direct, the themes of Venus in Leo: romance, confidence, creative expression. Venus loves the 5th house or has connections to obviously Taurus and Libra, but when it's in the 5th, it's more about the act of falling in love, going on dates, getting to know someone, creating things, making things. So it can be wonderful for artists, wonderful for performers, those of you guys who are entertainers, if you are self-employed, if you're into crafting or design, you know, anything that's going to be connected to showing your personal talents. Venus is going to be blessing you by spending an extended period of time there. Now, like I said, Venus will turn retrograde. So she'll turn retrograde on July the 22nd, and she will be staying in the sign of Leo really all the way up until, October the 8th. All you really need to know is that there is going to be a slew of aspects happening before Venus goes retrograde that will happen again. Okay, so what I'm really focusing on is pretty much going to be the squares. And you guys have heard me talk a little bit about this last week. I'm going to give you guys all of the dates for that in my webinar, but I want to focus more on it being direct for right now. So let me take you through like the obstacle course, maybe all the way up until, let's say, like the Venus retrograde date. So Venus will retrograde, like I said, on the 22nd of July. So we'll probably look at some of the aspects all the way up until the retrograde, and then we'll do like a part 2 of this video when we get into July. I don't want to give away all the secret herbs and spices before the webinar. And ingresses are something that have been interesting more and more. You know, the more that I practice astrology, I study astrology, I've really gotten into listening to some astrologers who have been talking about ingress charts for the purpose of making this, you know, applicable to everybody who's watching. I always create this chart with 0 degrees Aries rising, just to show you the planets specifically moving through the houses from that 0 degrees zodiacal order. But it might be worth looking at. That might actually be something that I take a look at in the webinar, is the ingress chart, exactly where the ascendant is. That's going to differ, right? Some astrologers like to do it from you know, the UK, kind of just like that central global time. Other astrologers will use their exact location. I will probably talk about that in a future video, but just looking at this from 0 degrees Aries rising, we have Venus moving into 0 degrees of Leo. So this is what we call the ingress, when the planet moves into a new sign. Venus immediately comes into an opposition with Pluto. And that's a heavy aspect, okay? So those of you guys who have Venus opposed Pluto, or even like a Venus-Pluto square in your natal chart, you know that there is tension. There is a darker side to love and relationships. There can be obsession, fixation. And Pluto represents power, right? It represents power, depth, shadow, sometimes things that are toxic, stuff that's involving abuse. So off the bat, Venus ingressing into Leo is like getting kind of just bitch slapped right when she moves into the sign, because she's being threatened or she's being challenged by Pluto. Now, when we dig a little bit deeper, right, Venus and Mars are in the same sign. So that's something else we're going to pick up during this particular Venus retrograde, is that Mars is about action and masculinity and desire and combativeness and cutting and fighting and war. and Venus is following behind Mars. So the two in the same sign are very loud, passionate, creative. There can be lots of room for, you know, significant romance. But both of them have had to kind of challenge Pluto. So you may want to look back on when there was like a Mars-Pluto opposition. I'll give you guys the date because it'll give you like a little bit of like a flavor of some similar energy. And that opposition looks like it started right around May 20th through like the 22nd, Mars opposed Pluto. So think what was going on then, because you may see some similar themes. And, you know, Venus, like Mars, is having to come into the first squares with Jupiter, the North Node, Uranus, all in Taurus, okay? So I know I'm throwing a lot of astrological lingo at you, but squares are the 90-degree angle. It creates a situation where there's friction, conflict, or force. And so squares are the energy of Mars. It's like, if you don't move, I'm gonna hit you type of vibe. So when I look at Mars coming into all of these squares first, there's going to be conflict, and then Venus coming into these squares, there's going to be repercussion financially in relationships. So if you're acting out, being aggressive, being threatening, if there is some selfishness, some entitlement, if there's some ego issues, it will cause financial or relationship repercussions, right? And so Mars in Leo is very warm and loving and charismatic, but it can also be picking up that energy of the sun that's like, I want what I want, and this is what I'm doing for me. And we're going to realize that some of these dynamics are positive because it's going to help people kind of wake up on a soul level and go, if I don't create this thing, if I don't call that person and tell them how I feel, if I don't move forward and launch this business or paint that painting, then, you know, I'm going to just pop. Because Pluto aspects can do that, but also Mars square the nodes, Mars square Uranus. So the takeaway here is that we need a healthy outlet. While Venus is in Leo and Mars is in Leo, we need an outlet for our passions, for our creativity, for our desire. We need to be more playful. We need to be more romantic. There is a need to go big or go home. Reflect back on summer of 2021. That's when we had Mars and Venus also going through Leo. It was weird because that was like the first summer that we had post-pandemic. I can just reflect back on like that being a summer, it went through my 11th house, but that being a summer where all my friends were like getting married or getting engaged or having kids or getting pregnant. Everybody was like celebrating all of these big things. It was very Leo. And it was challenging because we saw oppositions to Saturn. Saturn was in Aquarius, and we saw squares to Uranus. So there was lots of upheaval, right? I think between kind of like, well, we want to go out and socialize and do these things and party and go to events and stuff, but like, ooh, like there was still this kind of shutdown going on in society. Anyway, this time we're not going to have Saturn opposition. So I feel like there's more room to socialize and go and do things. There's more room to go out and play and be creative. This may feel like the first real summer that things are kind of getting back to normal. But the squares to Taurus make me feel like people aren't going to have the financial wherewithal to go and do some of the summer events that they want to do. Because Taurus, second house, is about personal resources, finances, what you possess, and then Leo is what you create with that. So bottom line, people need to get creative, okay? You're going to have to get creative this summer. Some people are going to be finding creative ways to make money where they're going to have side hustles, or they're going to be performing or creating or selling things, or they're going to try to be self-employed. We're going to have also this huge wave of, I think, the way that we look at what we're putting into our hobbies changing. Some of the squares will have some of you guys dumping a ton of money into a new hobby, especially if it's Leo related. So if you're getting into trading stocks, if you're getting into some sports, if you're getting into, I would say gambling, you know, that very Leo, these are all speculative things. Could be big risk, big reward when you see the squares, but there can also be a sense of realizing that more is not more, right? There are some things that money cannot buy. So I encourage you guys to get creative with what you're doing with this Leo energy. If you want to have a date night, it doesn't mean that you need to go and spend a bunch of money going to like a 5-star restaurant. Are there 5 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars? I don't know. Let me know. And have like this big bougie event, right? Mars and Venus in Leo is going to want that. And we're going to realize that we want big love, but there's some questions revolving around, do we have the finances for it? Also, Are we just using physical things to be able to show love and affection? There can be a sense of also just like overdoing it. I think some of the squares to Jupiter is where we overdo it, and then the Uranus square is like, it might pay off, you know? I think a lot of people are going to get a lot further in their creative lives and their romantic lives, and also their relationship with their children, because Leo is children, by really working hard to kind of learn to develop talent, right? Find ways to create things and do things in a more sustainable way. And create for the sake of creating, not necessarily for there to be some material gain, which I know is challenging given the climate right now, economically. But that, for me, I mean, I can only just speak from my perspective of some of these squares. I have a stellium in the second house, and I've seen retrogrades in the fifth house, and I've seen planets come into the fifth house square it. For me, every single time, it's like me going, yeah, but I'd really rather have playtime, and I know I need to be working and I need to be producing, but like there's this other thing that I just like want to do, and I'll find myself staying up, you know, into the late hours of the night working on something creative or writing something or putting something together or designing something, or wanting to just go out and have a good time, realizing that, you know, sometimes you have to reward yourself. So it's going to be different for each chart. I'm just speaking about this generally, but we're going to see some wild stuff. Now, like I said, Venus retrogrades on the 22nd. Okay, so shadow is going to happen at some point this month. It's right around the 11th is when the shadow starts in June. So you'll start seeing that kick up early in just a couple of weeks' time. And if there's any takeaway from this, how to cope, right? So when I say cope, because we know that Venus will go retrograde, there is a sense of expecting some of these retrograde themes to pop up down the road later in July. Reevaluating past relationships, being creative, trying a new hobby, expecting some existing relationships to undergo a necessary period of change. Remain heart-centered, don't partake in any unnecessary drama if you can help it, and proceed with caution when it comes to new hair or style changes or cosmetic alterations. Okay, that's the simplified version. But there's a lot more to this. Now, Venus moving into Leo, making that opposition to Pluto, like I said, there's going to be some kind of challenges, or there's going to be some jealousy, possessiveness, some darker themes in regards to love, finances, and resources that are going to appear with that opposition. So the ingress chart really kind of kicks off with, oh, there is like this crisis. Here is this problem. And planets at 0 degrees of any sign are extremely potent. We've seen recently this year that Pluto went into Aquarius, and it just seems like shift hit the fan, right? So I feel like you're probably going to see a lot of this kicked up quite a bit on June the 7th. Primarily because the moon acts as a trigger. We're going to see the moon and Pluto come together and oppose Venus. And we're going to see Venus start coming into a square with the nodes and also Jupiter. High times, there's going to be some really significant things that have to do with matters of the heart that are going to come up. Venus is like a flower, right? She opens up to something. So she's opening up to something, putting it out there, seeing if something can happen. And we might have kind of like a knee-jerk reaction when Venus comes into that square with Uranus and realize like, oh, shouldn't have made that investment, shouldn't have, you know, put myself out there that way. Like there is some sense of kind of like shifting gears that's going to happen with some of these squares. When Venus is in Leo, it's gonna radiate and kind of show Leo characteristics in matters of love. So personal expression is going to be a huge theme. It's very magnetic. It's very warm. We're going to see that, you know, there is going to be more drama and more enthusiasm when it comes to relationships and our interactions with other people. Venus in Leo is so generous. That's something else that I noticed when I was, you know, experiencing these Mars-Venus transits 2 summers ago, is just going and being around groups of people and how willing they were to just give and share and be affectionate and be loving. It was like a really cool thing to see. So you may notice that there is more warmth in regards to this transit. We might notice that, you know, people are more bold with their affection and with their love, grand romantic gestures, romantic outings, and expressing how they feel in a very bold way. Now, that might be by something that you create. That might be by a gift that you give someone. It might be something that you do for a friend or for a lover or for a child. I use these terms because that's kind of what's being shown with the opposition that's taking place between Leo and Aquarius. But when we look at this like archetypally, Leo is what about me, my talent, my needs, my heart, right? My desires, the things that I want to show the world, versus Aquarius, which is what other people have to say, what other people think. This is where you separate the individual, you pull them out of the crowd, you put them on the stage, and you go, okay, show us what you got. And Aquarius is everybody else who's just kind of watching or doing their own thing. So this is a moment for some people, especially if you're in the creative field, to really splash out and be seen. I think this is going to be really wonderful for some people, possibly to make some waves and get some attention in some not so easy ways. I think a lot of this is going to be where artists or women or younger people are kind of going against the grain with society. We may see some of this start to kind of peek through with this Moon-Pluto conjunction, which is emotionally intense and powerful, and it's very cold and detached in Aquarius in the opposition to Venus. There's no doubt we're going to hear something about child stars, celebrities, celebrity gossip, drama, this entanglement with, unfortunately, a lot of these banks, all this Taurus stuff, banks and business and their involvement in politics and also their involvement in the entertainment industry, and where someone or something is pulling the strings and they're all connected, because that's how the square works. One thing affects another, which affects another. So yes, I think we're going to hear more about some of these people who have been involved in some of these child crimes. I'll just leave it at that. But I said that, I think 8 months ago, that this would be the summer that there was going to be some of that stuff that was going to start to emerge. And we're going to hear about how it's actually probably become very common, I think, in Hollywood. And the reason why I think it's going to be a big deal this time around is because the planets square the nodes, and because it's going to oppose Pluto. So we're going to find out not just about the celebrities involved, but the politicians involved and about the banks that are involved. And it may take time for this to unravel, not just this particular Venus transit, but into the next year with Pluto and Aquarius, and we'll see more oppositions. But this is going to be that turning point where some relationships, some people are going to be exposed. It's what's going to happen. So see the beginning of that on the 7th. I'm excited also to see that this is going to give us the opportunity, I think, for us to really start to kind of tap into our confidence. That's what I like about Venus and Leo. I like that about Mars and Leo too. It's very confident. It's very self-assured. We may feel like we have to stand up and be confident in the face of some situations that are breaking down and that are not working, or where we're feeling kind of beaten down or bullied, right? Pluto can almost be like that villain in the story, and Leo wants to be the hero. So one of the reoccurring themes that we're going to see with Venus and Leo, and then the sun coming into Leo, is going to be, do we decide to be different? And part of our personal talent and self-expression is about challenging the shadow within ourselves, but also within society. There's going to be some kind of dramatic flair. So I think we're going to see loud pops of colors. I think we're going to see a lot more flashiness in changes of style and also hairstyles, and maybe jewelry preferences, because Leo is more about costumes and putting on, that becoming that character, and Taurus is about all the embellishments. I think we're going to see some really interesting clothing and style things. I think we might see more of like a Maximist type of, vibe with people wearing more things, or wearing more gaudy things, or bright things, or things that are gold or expensive. And we're also going to see some innovations because Uranus is going to be involved in that square. That's what I love about Venus and Leo. They have this sense of style that is just like so loud and bold. And I think that that's going to be something that's going to be seen as a really significant form of self-expression throughout this transit. Creativity, art, theater, other forms of creative expression is going to be highlighted as well, especially because they're attracted to beauty. Natal Venus and Leos are attracted to what's beautiful and what is kind of like striking. And I think a big theme is also going to be this focus on desire for loyalty and commitment, because, Venus and Leo is all about commitment to their relationships. They seek partners who appreciate their qualities and give them the attention and the admiration they desire. My South Node is in Leo. So, you know, like Mars and Venus in Leo, I can't help but notice that when I meet people and with clients. I really love like that passion and that zest for like life and also for romance. But sometimes when we get Mars and Venus together, it kind of reminds me of like Tinkerbell, you know, like how Tinkerbell wouldn't get the attention that she would need and she would just faint. There's lots of drama if you're not getting the heavy petting, the attention, the appreciation, the praise. And so we may feel that we need that more. We need that attention more, that physical touch, especially with some of the squares to Taurus, which can be about that physical connection and needing to feel desired or needing to feel wanted. Now, my big themes for you know, the Venus in Leo transit is probably going to start with just the fact that we're going to see 4 months of this particular transit. So look at the positive side, okay? Venus wants to bring more love, more relationships, more harmony. It definitely wants to bring more beauty. So look at where Leo is in your chart. That's where you're going to see the retrograde. And you're going to get an opportunity to have 4 months of her in that particular sign. Like I said, it's going to be more challenging for those of you guys who are fixed signs, especially if you have any placements from 11 to 29 degrees, which is most all of them. So if you are a Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or an Aquarius sun, moon, or rising that has anything from 11 to 29 degrees, you will be affected by the retrograde and the transit because it's going to be squaring several times other planets. So Leo, Taurus, and Libra, I'm looking at you. Some themes that I would say to be mindful of is obviously, you know, relationship dynamics are going to be tested because an opposition to Pluto represents kind of like that challenge. For some people, it may feel like a now or never, or it may feel almost like an ultimatum. I think we'll feel like that with Venus square the nodes as well. And then we're starting to pick up the square to the nodes that's taking place on June the 9th. So Venus at a 3 square the nodes is the need to communicate, share, write, talk, or express our feelings on a situation. Once again, you know, this is ruled by the sun. The dispositor of Leo is the sun. So you've got the sun that's coming into a square with Neptune. So there's going to be some confusion revolving around what it is that we thought we wanted and what we actually want, how we're showing up versus how we're not showing up. I think there's going to be some confusion in the midst of the beginning of the Venus transit revolving around, am I what I'm really projecting or portraying, right? And where are these problems perhaps stemming from the fact that I'm not communicating effectively or that I'm not asking questions or that I'm not, you know, showing my truth. There is some aspect of there being something that's clouded. So on the 9th, we're going to see that square, and that's where we need to add some love and we need to add a little bit more. As much as I hate to say that, there is a need to kind of really kind of show up and talk about what our heart wants, what our heart needs. And then 2 days later, we're going to see Venus start coming into the square with Jupiter. Now that's a overdoing it, anything goes type of vibe. I talked about that in my horoscopes and in my monthly. I love Venus and Jupiter at a 5. It feels very sexy. It feels very creative. It feels very abundant, but it also feels like it can be dramatic. But at least we're picking up a trine from that moon. And then we're going to see Venus come into that square with Uranus, which when we take the archetype of Venus, right, which wants to have stability, it wants to have you know, longevity in relationships. It wants to be able to have peace. It wants to focus on pleasure. And then we have Uranus, which is somebody who's like, let's turn it on its side and let's try this. So that didn't work. And let's try that. And like, give me some space. It's not unusual when I see a Venus-Uranus transit that's like a week or two where I'm hearing more of my clients are saying, hey, like, I think I'm ready to leave the relationship, or, you know, I'm finally done, you know, having this relationship, you know, with this person in my life, or I just need freedom, or I just want to change my hairstyle, or I just want to get my nose pierced, or I want a tattoo. You know, Uranus represents freedom. And we've got Venus being connected to Uranus. So there is something to be said about this particular square that in order for love to thrive, there needs to be room for growth, and there needs to be room for change. And you want to be watching, because this will be one of 3 Venus-Uranus squares. You might feel the day before, you might feel the day after. This will be the beginning of July. If you're somebody who has Venus square Uranus, you know that there can be tension in relationships, and sometimes there can be breaks and patterns in relationship. If you've got transit Uranus coming into a square with your Venus, you might be feeling like there's just something changing that's putting the pressure on pre-existing relationships or finances, right? So this is kind of the beginning. But whatever it is, it's going to be obvious because Mars will have recently also come into the square. Okay, so there was almost like pressure and conflict at the end of June, which kind of erupts in that aftermath of this is the financial or the relationship repercussions. And so retrogrades give us an opportunity to go back, reevaluate. Did we overreact? Do we want to get back together? Is that person that I'm willing to kind of do the work for? But there's going to be growing pains all summer long because we're going to see some of these aspects. Now, reevaluation of values is definitely going to be something that you're going to happen from the moment that Venus gets into shadow. So from June 11th on, we're already starting to, or wanting to start to think about the Venus shadow. And reevaluating values, our desires, what we find truly valuable and meaningful to us. It's a period where we're going to start thinking about being more introspective and questioning our preferences in love, beauty, and material possessions. But that being brought on by a change. With Uranus in a square to Venus, there could be sudden, changes in financial situations that could radically affect Leo. So just to put it in context, okay, Uranus in the 2nd house, suddenly you come into a situation where, you've lost your job and you're trying to figure out how to financially make ends meet. And you're concerned about how that's going to affect your ability to take your significant other out for your, weekly or monthly date night. And they're used to being taken to the mall or, having things paid for or fancy dinners. And the Uranus-Venus square is setting up and you realize, I don't have all the things. I can't provide all of the things. So how does that then affect the relationship? And do you have a dynamic in the relationship where this person goes, don't worry about it, it's fine. Let's go to the park and take a walk. Let's make dinner at home. Let's have a movie night. It'll be fun. We'll do something that's going to be more creative, and it doesn't need to be based off of like finances. Like, I just want to spend time with you. I just want that connection. Versus the relationship that goes, well, see you later. If you can't provide for me, I'm out. And we can see the bends and the breaks and the cracks in relationships sometimes when we have these squares. And so I don't say this to make it all be about money, but it's happening in financial signs. On the flip side, it could be where radical change and transformations of values allow you to have a breakthrough and realize that you don't need to work late on Friday night, and maybe it is time better spent trying to go out there and meeting the love of your life. So the relationship that we have with resources or money or anything that's tangible and the physical kind of sense is going to be coming up against and having challenges with what the heart wants. So we're going to see a little bit of like a back and forth here. Definitely past relationship patterns come up. The past is more like Saturn. It can be Saturn when Saturn's retrograde. Certainly you hear a lot about retrogrades, exes call, right? Mercury retrograde, exes call. Venus retrograde, exes come back. They want to hook up. They want to reconnect. Any retrograde could do that, right? If you're having a retrograde, especially like in the 5th house, in the 7th house, in the 8th house, in the 12th house, these may be more potent, but a Venus retrograde is definitely going to have a sense of us reevaluating and going back and thinking about past relationships. And if we have unresolved issues in relationships as well, it may surface in pre-existing relationships or just for us in general. And it's coming up to give us an opportunity to heal some of these patterns. So something I've been noticing that's coming up for a lot of my clients this last week has it coming into some of these Mars squares has been the conflict, which is triggering, actions and selfishness sometimes in relationships, or anger or frustration or outbursts are actually triggering things where if you look beneath the surface, it's really some kind of pre-existing issue, pain, hurt, haunt, right? Something that has taken place in the past. And, Mars coming into the square is saying you have to kind of have that challenge or that conflict, allowing it to kind of make itself seen So that way you can start to work through it. Things get more challenging when Mars and Venus square Uranus, because then there's just like a blow up situation. So one thing that I would say is that Venus in Leo teaches us to keep the heart open. And even in spite of financial changes or changes in regards to relationships or changes in regards to preferences, it's about staying open. And I think the squares to Uranus can be shocks and surprises. I think some of us might be shocked to see, you know, who sticks around or who really loves us or who really has our back. And I think some of us might also be shocked to see what has been hiding, you know, within us in regards to pre-existing relationship issues that are now starting to kind of unveil themselves. The effect that it has on the physical body, right? The squares to Uranus can be how we're harboring that in our body and how it's creating self-esteem issues and how it's creating issues revolving around resources or hoarding or eating habits, and things that might go back to our childhood, right? Because Venus in Leo does deal with our childhood. So a lot of people are starting to work through, you know, childhood related trauma, things that happened when they were younger that has significantly affected their self-esteem, which has also in turn perhaps affected their ability to share, create, socialize, feel valuable, but also to love themselves. That's now all going to kind of come up and be dealt with, right? The question is like, what happens when we don't have all of the things, when we don't have all of like the material things that we use in relationships to feel loved? If you don't have money to offer somebody, if you don't have all of the bells and whistles to offer somebody, do you stay and do you stick it out, right? And how are you willing to stay in certain situations because of a financial need or a physical need, but your heart is telling you that you need out? So that's gonna be a theme that's gonna happen throughout the summer. Watch also for personal changes in style and appearance. You know, Venus in Leo is very much, like I said, about putting on a show. But the squares to Uranus, I think, is going to be about, you know, do we do things that are really loud and unusual and really different? Are we doing something that's a little too extreme, right? Do we decide that we're going to go in for a trim and we decide we're going to shave it all off, or we're going to, you know, dye it bright green? Not that there's anything wrong with these things, but I feel like a lot of people are going to want to be playing a character. And it can be extreme. It can be too much because people are trying to make up for the lack of something, the lack of feeling self-assured or feeling secure or, you know, solid within your own self-esteem. In my mind, I get so stressed out looking at this because I'm like, there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna go, I don't have the financial means to go and get my hair foiled or to go and get the extensions, or I'm just gonna take a little bit off the top myself. We're gonna see some wild hair situations because Venus does deal with beauty and cosmetics and anything in regards to, yeah, just the appearance overall. So definitely expect some changes and people exploring different aspects of your self-expression, which in turn will create some changes in, you know, how you physically look. And I'm especially expecting that during the Venus-Uranus square, perhaps during the all of them. All of them. I could see somebody rush to doing something and trying to fix it. People trying to go blonde too quickly, frying their hair. People, you know, thinking that they can take a bunch of hair off and they don't like it and then they're getting a wig. Not that there's anything wrong with these things, but remember, Mars is leading the pack here. So Mars is going to quickly act irrationally or too quickly, or he could run through something too quick or take too much off. And then all of a sudden you're having to spend more money to go in and fix the problem. Anybody who's used box dye, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Definitely if you're switching from being a regular box dye user on your hair to going and getting your hair colored, just the chemical makeup and everything, you realize that you end up paying for it in the long run when you're going to go and fix it or get, you know, your color matched. So I can see some stuff kind of going on there with some of those squares. I encourage you guys to also use this as a time to reflect, okay? Because there's going to be a lot changing. There's going to be a lot going on. Reflection is going to be so necessary, and really evaluating your own needs and desires and making any necessary adjustments for personal growth, right? Within wherever Taurus is in your chart. We may notice challenges with finances, not only because Venus first opposes Pluto, but because Venus is also going to come into a square with Uranus. So this whole waiting for money to come in, borrowing money, putting stuff on credit, people who are going to be taking money out because they want to be like gambling or they want to be putting money into the market, can get a little sticky. I would be cautious there. And there's no doubt with a bunch of squares to Jupiter and Uranus, I think we're going to see some pretty wild fluctuation economically going on. But I feel like the retrogrades, when we start to kind of realize at the end of summer, I overdid it. Like I could see a lot of people, they're going to spend a lot of money on going out and vacationing or entertainment, right? Buying tickets to big shows and expensive gatherings and things that people do during the summertime. And then as we're getting to the tail end of summer, people realizing that some of the economic effects and the slowdown of what's going on, we may literally be trying to return things. Or we might be having a retrograde is about, a reversal. We can see a reversal of situations. Now, if things are good, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to go bad, but it does mean that you can see things slow down. But on the flip side, if things are kind of rocky and challenging, the retrograde can be a time where we see reversals, where things can get better. This is where it pays to know your personal astrology. But be mindful that there can be delays or, a reassessment of finances because Venus governs over money and financial matters. So we can see challenges in financial transactions, reassessing your spending habits, reviewing, especially when it comes to how much we're spending on entertainment, how much we're spending going out to shows, how much we're spending going to bars, how much we're spending going to the movies, right? I don't think a lot of people are doing that anymore, but maybe we'll see a resurgence of that. I don't know. And how much money we're spending on children, right? Hobbies, creative things, because that's all going to be Leo as well. So we've got that opposition, square to the node, square to Jupiter, square to Uranus. And then finally, the beginning of July, Venus starts to get a break because she's not really making any aspects. She's going to continue to keep moving. And the one thing that really also piqued my attention is going to be when Venus is getting to the late degrees, right before she retrogrades. She is going to come into basically like a yod in mid-July. So she's going to hit the late degrees of Leo. She's slowing down, getting ready for her retrograde on the 22nd. She's going to form an inconjunct to Neptune, and she's going to form an inconjunct to Pluto. These are two heavy-hitting outer planets in late degrees. Pluto and Capricorn, reevaluating, power and authority structures within the world. Neptune and Pisces, what's kind of hidden, subconscious, what's going on behind the scenes, some kind of secret scheming, some spiritual things. So, Leo has nothing in common with Capricorn or Pisces, right? And this is that really interesting time right around the time of the retrograde where she's actually the focal point of this yod. And the nodes are about to dip into Aries and Libra. So guys, we've had like almost 18 months of the North Node in Taurus, which is more money, more pleasure, more food, growth. We need more land. We've definitely seen a sense of focusing on the physical side of life. And it's been positive because Venus is, Venus is the ruler. But right around the time that the North and the South Node go into Aries and Libra, now Venus rules the South Node. Okay, so we've got Venus ruling the South Node in Libra, right? Finding it difficult or challenging or bringing up the themes revolving around not being able to mediate. I don't like being the person to say this, but there's going to be a lot of people who are going to separate this summer. 29 degrees of Libra for me can be an indication or a mark of divorce, 27, 28, 29 in certain progressions and things like that. And then we're also going to see a Venus retrograde. And then we also see the node square Pluto. The interesting thing is like I said, while that's happening, all eyes are on Venus. Not because she's about to turn retrograde, but she's very significantly sextile to the South Node, trine to the North Node, saying that we have to kind of take action and go after what we love the most. What's going to create this wave of change in the world this year is going to be people really showing up and going like, it doesn't make sense, but that's what my heart wants, and it's not going to make sense to a lot of people that they're suddenly shifting gears and deciding that they're willing to give up relationships or give up jobs or things to go and pursue what it is that they really want or what they really need, right? So being in touch and really knowing yourself is going to be so important over the summer. That Yod is going to hang around for a number of days because, like I said, Venus won't go retrograde until the 22nd. And when she does, there we go, she will be at 28 degrees, but she's going to be conjunct Lilith. She's going to be conjunct Regulus. And we're going to see throughout the retrograde that Lilith, Venus, and Juno are all going to be together. Okay, so relationships, things going on revolving around women, how women are handling changes of relationships, how people are handling potentially other people kind of coming in and getting involved. Venus Lilith is wild to watch that retrograde. I'm expecting there's going to be something pretty crazy about like the feminist movement. And we're still going to have that extended Yod for a period of time, but now we've got Venus and Lilith quincunx Pluto. So something going on revolving around radical changes with younger people, children. And remember, Leo is matters of the heart, not just figuratively, literally. It is about the heart. It's about the heart. Anything in regards to like the cardiovascular system. Yes, it has connections to the back. But I'm going to be watching this going like, what's going on with heart problems? What's going on with children? What's going on with children's health? What's going on with veterans' health? North Node trine to Venus, right? And North Node's in Aries. So we're going to be finding out more of the health in regards to these particular people. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. That's just taking you to the 22nd of July. I really wanted to, allow there to be a lot more room for explaining this in my Venus webinar. I guess I would just say my takeaway is watch for those nodes changing signs. I think that's when we're really going to see Venus turning retrograde is when something significant is happening, because then we're reassessing karmic relationships. Venus is the South Node ruler. We've got the North Node ruler coming into an opposition with Saturn, where people are going to be going, this isn't good for me. That's not going to work for me. There's an issue here. There's something out of balance here. And then there's going to be a lot of like readjustments going on in relationships. 3 Venus-Jupiter squares, 3 Venus-Uranus squares, South Node switching signs. Remember that Libra deals with marriage, committed partners, counselors, therapists, people who we partner with in general. And Leo is about playmates and children and, being creative. So there's a lot of things going on either with lovers or boyfriends and girlfriends or children, and changes going on in that department that's really affecting the South Node. And a lot of people are going, that's not good enough for me. That's not the life that I've chosen, or this is not what I wanted. And that North Node in Aries is going to kind of wake up, and it's going to make people realize that they have to take action to create the life that they want. So if there's imbalances going on in relationships, or if there's a need to reconnect with certain people, people may feel more inspired to do that. Like I said, those several ladies being involved, Juno and Lilith, is going to be an interesting story revolving around a lot of threes of crowd situations. I don't like saying that, but it's very 3 of Cups vibes. Other people interfering in some relationship. Somebody coming in, being that kind of archetype for Lilith, where there is a lot of drama and seduction and attraction, and then Venus kind of being caught in between the two. Now, I think archetypally, it can also be in society where we're starting to look at women differently, or women are looking at the idea of marriage differently. And Venus will be kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place with seductive Lilith and Juno, which is going to be more about partnership and commitment. And this is that very kind of, as much as I hate to say it, like Madonna whore kind of complex where, there's going to be people who idealize the idea of partnerships and relationship. And then they've got this separate aspect of themselves where it's like, yeah, but I want the sexy person that I can kind of go after. So on society's level, I think there's going to be a lot of talk revolving around what it means to be in a committed relationship, to be married, what you're potentially sacrificing within committed relationships. If there is interference with other people, and if, the entertainment industry or the way that we look at romance or sex or, intimacy in general, because Leo is about the act of sex for fun, right? This is the house of like one night stands. where we're looking at that differently. And there might be something that's changing and something shifting, revolving around, you know, the archetypes within relationships. Definitely when you have some of these asteroids getting involved. Like I said, Juno's not going to join the mix until right around here, but there's going to be a point in September where they're all going to align. And it's when the retrograde is over, but it still might represent this sense of two different people getting involved, or there being like the archetypes and they all kind of fuse together and become one. So I'm curious to see what that does for like female empowerment and feminist movements. And just changes revolving around beauty and femininity. And then also the fact that Venus will turn retrograde on Regulus, which I think is going to be very significant. I have a whole like list of people who are celebrities and people out in the world that have particular placements around the 12 degrees of Leo or 28 degrees of Leo, where this retrograde is going to begin and end. That are going to, I think, really be brought out pretty significantly just looking at past transits in the skies. And yeah, Hollywood changes, okay? So a lot of you guys are like, what's going to happen? Huge Hollywood drama, really juicy Hollywood drama. And part of me is like, it will happen because we've seen in previous retrogrades that there has been major changes. I was looking at some of the ones from 2015, some big drama. I mean, a lot of people that year separated, a lot of famous celebrity couples separated. And so Leo does talk about stars. It does talk about celebrities, performers, actors, creatives. So I think we're going to see something there, partially because of the retrograde, partially because of Mars. So I think we're going to see some significant relationship changes, more opportunities to feel inspired or romantic in some way. Some of my favorite albums and movies have been created during Venus retrogrades. So you're going to hear some scary stuff about the retrograde, but it's a time to really take time over that 4-month period to integrate more inspiration and creativity and playfulness and really be expressive and really immerse yourself in that process and know that it's going to take time because of the squares to make adjustments to aesthetics or what you're spending on something or how something feels or how it looks until you get it just right. So the retrograde can be utilized in a positive way to be able to work on long drawn out projects. And then when Venus is coming into, you know, Libra and it's making some nicer aspects in the skies, perhaps then something is going to be ready to be unveiled. Major shakeups in finances. So like I said, the Uranus squares is that, but equally big opportunities for advancement in both creative and financial ventures, especially if you're willing to take a risk. And watch out for some of these stickies, some of these things from the past that can definitely kind of come back up throughout the next month or so prior to the retrograde even beginning to be reevaluated. Now, interestingly enough, I asked the tarot, I was like, hey, what's going to happen? And I got some pretty interesting cards. So I just did a really simple past, present, and future spread. And so for the past position in regards to Venus and Leo, I got the 10 of Coins, which is a very positive card. This is a card that is about, you know, leaving a legacy, inheritance, wealth, financial security, long-term success, family, ancestry, privilege. It can be the everything is great, I've got everything I need, or I've got somebody or something that supports me, whether it's a partner, a business, you know, a solid job. It could be a family, inheritance. This card does have connections to higher society, and it has connections to people who have some kind of support through generational wealth that's been built and then passed down. I've said for some time that the South Node in Scorpio and some of the eclipses and some of the transits are definitely going to rock and rattle and roll a lot of generational wealth. So, you know, we're seeing, we're going to start to see, you know, declines in investments. We're going to see some issues also with people eating away at savings, which has effect on future generations. Now, regardless of how you feel about inheritance, because everybody's got their own perspective on that. When there's less to give and there's more that we're going through, people who may have potentially been told that they're going to be given that or that they're going to get support suddenly may not have as much support, right? And this can also be talking about just changes with business in general, how you're conducting business. It might be changes also with like family. It's less emotional, it's more physical. So it's like the physical state of your finances and your family, your physical home, your physical space. The second card that I got for the right now card, and I got this reversed, I got the Knight of Wands. And so this is the be mindful of what's going to be happening. This is an energy that's obviously associated with fire. The Knight of Wands is more connected to Sagittarius. But the Knight of Wands reversed is delays, impatience, frustration, hot temper, arrogance, reckless, lack of self-control, passive, volatile, and domineering. That sounds more like Mars, huh? But that can be saying like, okay, I thought it was there, give it to me. You know, I'm supposed to get it, give it to me. Or that's mine, I need to have it now. And some conflicts and actions or impatience and reactions that lead to some drama. Lack of self-control is a big thing that I see with Mars-Uranus squares. So I know this is about Venus, but I feel like there can be some things that are said or done over this particular Venus transit that Venus is going to try to make up for. She's going to try to fix. But there may be some things that are sold that cannot be got back. There can be some relationships that can be broken that cannot be fixed. There can be some physical things, some acts especially, that cannot be undone. So I think about the Knight of Wands is like, you know, losing your temper and saying or doing things that creates major like divots in relationships that we might have with other people. And then I was like, okay, what's the future position? And of course I got the Death card, which brings me back to where this discussion started, which was the Venus in opposition to Pluto. Maybe it's just me. I'm not being cynical. Okay, so don't think I'm being cynical. But with Venus in opposition to Pluto, I feel like there are some things that are going to be playing out around early June. That's going to be almost like the kiss of death. Venus, Pluto, how appropriate. That's like the kiss of death. That's like, this thing happened, right? Or this money was spent, we're not getting it back. Or like there's this crack in a relationship, or there's this problem that I have with my spending. Like, and this is a crisis and it cannot be fixed. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Now with Pluto squares, it's like if you're going in one direction where you're like, what's the point? It's all a mess. There's no point in trying. Or if you're going deeper into the Venus and Leo square the nodes, that's like, no, I'm going to fight for what I need to fight for. I'm going to show up, and if I really love someone or something, or if I care about something, I'm going to show up for them. I'm going to offer some kind of support. So the Death card is a difficult card, man. This is connected to Pluto. This is also connected to Scorpio. I do think maybe it's picking up the energy of like some of the squares to the South Node. Symbolic death and rebirth, big changes, right? Time to move on, transformation, transitions, endings, letting go, release, starting anew. You guys have to keep in mind also that this is 10 signs away from Scorpio, right? Leo is 10 signs away. So if you're a Leo rising, it's like Scorpio season. Excuse me, not Scorpio season. What am I saying? Yeah, Scorpio season. Scorpio season can... Hello, I'm like all backwards. Scorpio season is 4 signs away from Leo. So it's going to represent the home, the emotions, and also the past. So I think a lot of the things that are going to be going on with some of the transits through Leo with the squares to the South Node is going to be where there's some drama coming up as a result of unresolved issues with the past. So really the Death card is like saying like things are going to happen that you can't come back from. And Venus in opposition to Pluto in early June, you may know that the writing is on the wall that something has to come to an end. You might know that. You might kind of look around the first week and be like, yeah, that's done. I feel like we need a confirmation card for that. Tarot is sassy today. 7 of Cups. It's almost like, I see this as like, don't see what you want to see. Right? Choices, illusion, clouded judgment, too many options, indecision, disarray, searching for purpose. I mean, when this card comes up, it's like basically saying like, if you allow things to get worse, and I would say that anyway with the Venus transit, Venus square Jupiter is going to make it bigger, and then square Uranus is going to be chaotic. If you hold things in, if you allow things to continue to go in the direction that they're going, if you don't recognize and see some of the imbalances or where there's some issues, then the death card is kind of telling me that, like, yeah, inevitably you're going to think back and you're going to go, yeah, the writing was on the wall in June, but I let this play out for like 2 months. And that can be also in financial situations. So be very mindful that if things are already kind of feeling a little tight, take that seriously, because there can be some more challenges, especially come the end of summer with this retrograde, where things can be more difficult when it comes to bringing resources in and also feeling supported. Those are some difficult cards. I just want to remind you guys that I did take you through all of the 12 signs. So if you want to know specifically how these Pluto, Mars, Venus things kind of play out, please do listen to your rising sign for the June horoscopes. I won't be taking you through the astrology because I already did that, but I did think it was a good idea to pull a card for each and every one of you guys. So you want to listen for your whole sign, rising sign. So listen for your rising sign, and then listen for your sun sign, because Venus is going to enter into Leo. It's going to go all the way to 28 degrees. So for the most part, it's going to move all the way through your whole sign prediction. The rising sign is based off of zodiacal order. So it's going to be literally, you know, like going through your ascendant sign based off of the time that you were born. You can listen to your rising, your sun, and your moon sign. Obviously, I'm a Western astrologer, and this would be your whole rising sign predictions. And if you want to physically see the chart, although I don't want to confuse you guys, go check out your horoscopes. So we're going to start first with Aries and Aries rising. The Venus retrograde and the Venus in Leo transit will be going through your natal 5th house. And Venus has connections to relationships. It has connections also to your 2nd house of possession. So there can be something kind of changing, revolving around give and take in relationships, how you're spending. But it's going to be going through your 5th house. So Venus going into your 5th house is wonderful. It's very romantic. It's very creative. It's very fun. It is possible that you are re-evaluating something revolving around your love life, your creative life, your self-expression, going back to an old hobby, going back to an old relationship. If you're single, you're trying to get out there, you're trying to mingle, and it's really good because you're feeling like just letting loose and having fun. Really, that's the truth here. The card that jumped out for you is the Hierophant, which is interesting because this is a card connected to Taurus. This is a card connected to commitment. This is a card that is all about society and wisdom and beliefs and what's conventional, and it is about, in a way, like kind of like tradition, right? So I think this is about you really reevaluating like what it is that you need when it comes to relationships or love. What it is that you need to be paying better attention to, possibly even when it comes to like creativity, self-expression, or children. And having a little bit more of like a better hold on some of these things. You might be looking for like a significant relationship, or looking to take an existing relationship to the next level. So there is a sense of like approaching this with like a little bit more maturity and looking for something long term, which makes sense. You know, reevaluating a pre-existing relationship to see if it can go the distance, or you know, wanting to get back out there, but wanting to find something that's like, you know, serious or committed. Okay, so now we've got Taurus and Taurus rising. Obviously, Taurus, are you shaking in your boots yet? For my Taurus risings, obviously, Venus rules your chart, okay? So 4 months of having Venus moving through your 4th house. On one hand, I think it's good for you, Taurus. I mean, I think that it's going to help you get more so connected to home, more connected to family. Venus can materialize literally as a woman. So it can be about a woman coming to visit and stay at your home. It can be about a woman coming or going in and out of your home. More beauty, more family, right? Like more love within the home space. You are Venus, so it might represent you doing more at home with younger people or creative projects around the house, painting, decorating, roommates, right? But it's private. Yes, it's going to be challenging when Venus goes retrograde because it's going to come into some uncomfortable angles with a bunch of planets in your sign. So there's going to be a sense of a lot of action in the home right now. Mars and Venus there. Squares to Uranus is whether or not your need for freedom, your need for self-expression is shaking things up, or possibly even creating challenges within the home or the family dynamic. Obviously, Venus has connections to your 1st house. It has connections to your 6th house. So I kind of get the vibe that it's going to be about like how you're able to make changes with your schedule and your health and like work through issues with partners and be able to find like something that works with you and another person. So you have more time for your home or your domestic life, right? Be mindful also changes with property or real estate can happen here. And the card that I got for you is the Page of Cups. So this can be about a water sign. This can be about a Scorpio or a Pisces or a Cancer. Pages can represent romantic relationships, just getting to know each other, connecting, kind of like that sweet beginning of relationships. But it can also be about the possibilities of future relationships and what life could be with another person and where you could live and what that home would look like and what you would have within the home space. Sometimes pages represent children. So if you are in a relationship, you can be talking about that. If you're not in a relationship, you might be meeting a water sign, but pay special attention if you have somebody who's like a water sign female in your life, because to me it seems like because the Page of Cups is like the dreamer, it's somebody who's offering you an opportunity to be like, this is what life could be. So they could bring more beauty, they could bring more love into your life. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's up, Gemini? So you're going to have Venus entering into Leo, and air loves fire, so this is a good transit for you. Venus will be making sextiles to your ascendant if you're a Gemini rising, and it's moving into your third house. So Venus is going to be highlighting and bringing more love, sweetness, and beauty when it comes to your third house matters. Communication, gadgets, neighbors, getting around town, vehicles, siblings, things like that. Now, Venus has connections, obviously, for you. That's going to be in your 5th house, which is very much connected to romance. And it also has connections to your 12th house, which is going to be about what is hidden in nature, kind of spiritual. You know, personally, I feel like this might be an opportunity for you to get in touch and do some creative writing. Getting out of town, going on a short vacation, going on some road trips, you know, really focusing on how you can kind of communicate and express yourself a little bit differently. If you've been at odds with a sibling, you might reconnect with them. And it is possible that you're considering making a change in a gadget or in a vehicle. I could definitely see that happening for you. But you know, the retrograde in general, I think the sextile to your personal planets in Gemini is going to be really helpful. And there's a lot of energy with the Sun and Mercury going through your sign to get out there and to get out and about. So if you're wanting to explore other parts of the neighborhood or other parts of the city that you're living in, or just kind of meeting people locally, it can be really great for that. The card that I get is the Page of Wands. So this is fun. You might connect with a fire sign, so there can be like an Aries or a Sag or a Leo that can come through. Adventure, excitement, fresh ideas, cheerfulness, energy, limitless potential, discovery, and a young spirit. Oh, hello, a young spirit. So this is cool because the page is like already jumping off the table. It makes me feel like you're like restless and you're like, I need to get out and go and do something and I'm going to go explore, which is what Venus is going to want to do. But you're going to want to stop and smell the roses and talk to people and engage with people and like just get out and kind of, you know, connect. So if you're feeling a little wanderlust, I think it's really positive for you. And I think it might be the beginning of you either getting to know your environment better or possibly like learning new ways to connect and communicate with other people. Good luck, Gemini. For Cancer and Cancer rising, we've got Venus moving into Leo in your 2nd house. Ooh, well, Venus likes being in the 2nd house. It is a nice placement for you. I feel like this is really nice because it has the opportunity to bring more money, okay? It's going to bring more security, stability, really great for your self-esteem, really great for just loving yourself, right? Leo's 2nd house. The conflict here is that Venus will eventually retrograde, and Mars is there. So you're spending money, but you're making money. And I would just say be really cautious with some of your expenses. I do think that it is meant to bring more in for you. In particular, Venus rules your 4th house, which deals with home and family. And Venus also rules your 11th house, which deals with friendships. So it's possible that like there's some change going on for you when it comes to what friendships you value, what support you're getting from groups of people, how much money you're making, whether or not there's a change in a living situation due to a family member or due to a friend helping you out or coming back around or reconnecting with one of these people. If you've been having some financial issues, the retrograde can actually help get that back on track. But a lot of that's connected to self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. If you are, doing fine financially, I would say just watch the spending, focus on, still sticking to a budget. Your goals revolving around self-esteem or resources are definitely going to change with some of the squares. The card that I get is the Two of Swords. Feeling a little stuck, difficult decisions, weighing your options, doubt, inner conflict, avoidance, hidden information, confrontation in between, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I think of like the square is that's like, do I buy this? Do I not? Do I invest my time in this? Do I not? And Venus's connection to the 4th house could literally be whether or not you're buying things from your home, whether or not you want to, pay more money to move, whether or not you move out on your own, you live with a friend. There can be lots of other people having an impact on your finances. That's just the one thing that I want you to think about. So you might be asking yourself, what's the best strategy, right? How do I kind of navigate this? If you're feeling indecisive about a financial decision, sleep on it, think about it, take your time, know that there might be better conditions that are coming during the retrograde, where if money is owed to you or you need support, or if people said that they'd help you out, or maybe that's just a time where you're realizing that you've been making money and you've been like saving, and so you have more of a sense of security. But don't rush any of these decisions. Good luck, Cancer. Leo and Leo rising, this is going to be Venus entering your sign. Oh my goodness, the cosmos have blessed you. 4 months of having Venus in your sign is going to have you looking extra delicious. I love it for you. I love Jupiter and Uranus in your 10th house. I love the success that's going to come from your career. I love Venus in the 1st house, which is just so much embodying, right? That self-love, like very glowing. The challenge is that the ingress and the opposition to Pluto is you're going to realize that not everybody is going to celebrate you. And I think that that can be hurtful. Certain friends, certain partners, you might realize that you're going through a period where there's like a massive glow up and a lot of success, but the people that you want the support from the most, you might not be feeling like you're getting it. And the truth is, Leo, is that you're going to have to give it to yourself. Part of Mars and Venus in the 1st house is just be passionate about you. Be passionate about how you're looking, how you're treating your body, how you're dressing, how you're, doing your makeup or how you're doing your hair. You want to look at the body as like a canvas the next 4 months, right? What are you putting on the body? That is the question. The card that I got was the Knight of Wands. So interesting that this came up reversed. Now it's coming up upright, which is about being courageous, energetic, charming, passionate, adventurous, free-spirited, impulsive. Yeah, I mean, the better qualities of the Knight of Wands, more passion and action, less kind of anger. Although, Venus on your ascendant is going to make you more kind of sweet. Mars can be a little hot and cold. I think of Venus's connection to your 3rd, and that this is going to help you communicate in a much more loving, passionate way. I think of Venus's connection to your 10th as you're redefining yourself outside of just who you are at work. You're focusing on detaching from that image and focusing on who you are just in general as a person, and not being too overly identified with your position out in the world, redefining who you are on a personal level as well. Good luck. We have got Virgo and Virgo rising. Venus is going into Leo. It's going to hang out in your 12th house. Oof. Venus's connection to Libra in your 2nd house of money. And Venus's connection to Taurus in your 9th house of beliefs and travel. I get the feeling for you, this is going to be about what's hidden, what's spiritual, what's karmic. Some of you will travel. Some of you guys will change your philosophy. Some of you guys will realize that you have like somebody who has a crush on you and you had no idea. And there's like this grand romantic love story that's getting ready to set up, right? That's the feeling that I'm getting for a lot of you with Mars and Venus in your 12th house. a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. But for the most part, I think that this is about letting some things go, because Venus in the 12th can be about releasing something, clearing karma in relationships. That's what a lot of you guys are going to do. Becoming aware of hidden talent. Like there might be a sense of you guys spending money on going back to school and education because of the connection to your 9th. You might be spending more money on traveling and like getting lost and having like this love affair with like a foreigner, right? Lots of inspiration, lots of spirituality, but definitely a lot of like working out some of the hidden or karmic things within your natal horoscope. That's going to be interesting, just thinking about that order of, you know, having a retrograde there, having Mars there. Then as we come into the end of summer, you're going to have a Mercury retrograde in your sign that's reevaluating what direction you're going in. That will oppose Saturn and oppose Neptune in your 7th. To me, it's kind of like there can be this hot, steamy thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, where does this leave us? And then you have to make some bigger decisions. Of course, you got the 7 of Cups, right? So you and Leo are definitely picking up on some of those general energies. Choices, judgment, feeling clouded, not being sure, like what's going on, you know, can we be seen? Can we not be seen? Are we having to hide this romance from the world? Are you pining for somebody and wondering when you're going to reconnect, if they're going to come back to you? Are you dreaming about someone? You know, Venus in the 12th can be really amazing if you're going away and doing retreats, or if you're going to be traveling with a romantic lover. But for the most part, sometimes there can be a sense of feeling like you're losing things that you love, or, you know, wondering if it's going to come back to you. So if you've had some issues, maybe there's healing that's going to come from this particular transit, but it does look like it's a little unclear. And I would say watch your dreams, especially with the 12th house. Good luck, Virgo. For Libra and Libra rising, your chart ruler is going to be going into Leo. So it's going to make a sextile to your ascendant Libra, which is great. It's going to spend 4 months in your 11th house. Obviously, where Venus goes, that's you. So Venus being connected to your 1st house of self and body and your 8th house of change and transformation makes me feel like you're undergoing a significant personal change. It does make me feel like, because of the connection to the 8th house, you're collaborating and trying to find ways to create and make money with other people. It might mean that you're reconnecting with friends. It might mean that throughout the retrograde, you're finding out who your true friends are, what your true goals are, trying to find new ways to strengthen and make more money, because the 11th house is second from the 10th when it comes to your career. But it might take a team. The connection to the 8th house is secrets. So there can also be secrets coming out in regards to, you know, who you're friends with, or you're relaying secrets to some of your friends. Oh, how appropriate. Oh, I thought that was the Star card. It's not. It's 4 of Pentacles. 4 of Pentacles. But maybe you're relaying secrets and you're telling your friends something. You know, if there's been a squabble with friends, it can remedy itself. Be careful with like friends and money and lending, borrowing and lending, because of the squares to Uranus in your 8th house. But 4 months being there is a positive thing. So you might reconnect and spend more time with some of your social groups. The card that I get is the 4 of Pentacles. Possessiveness and security, saving, being conservative, solid, investment guarded, and long-term security. So you're thinking about this, right? 4 of Pentacles is kind of weird, because if we hold on too tight, we can't let abundance in. If we're just letting it go and we're just too free with it, then we're not ever going to be able to hold on to anything. So in the realm of the 11th house, certain friends, you just have to let them go and do their thing. And if they come back and you guys are able to make amends, then that's a friendship that's meant to be. But also, like, you have to let certain things go, or you have to let certain things kind of play out the way that they need to play out. If you're thinking about long-term security, there might be a need to kind of make some adjustments and make a shift. And I definitely think for you, it's about learning to not hold on to things too tightly. That seems to be the big key here. Obviously, Venus retrogrades affect you more than some of the other signs. So it might just be a period of just some of your goals revolving around finances also changing, and realizing that there is a need to really pay more attention to what's going on, not just with work, but also with your social life. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, you've got Venus entering into Leo. It's going to come into your 10th house, which is all about your career. It's going to be about things that are going on in regards to your public image and your relationship to other people in your professional life. So bosses and collaborators, people who see you. It's your public image. So the 7th and the 10th house are very public. So you want to pay attention to what's going on here. So 4 months of having Venus in the 10th house will bring more recognition. It might bless you and bring you more clients. Venus is connected to your 7th house of partnerships, relationships, and also the services that you offer. It's your marketplace. And it's also connected to your your 12th house, Libra, which is kind of hidden and secretive and subconscious. So this can go one of two ways. Scorpio, you have the opportunity to really tap into your creative side and show some of your hidden talents, that connection to the 12th house with the world and the things that you can do and that you can create to be able to bring in more business, bring in more recognition, and also have a radical change or a transformation at work. Now, the retrograde can have you changing jobs, going back to jobs, bringing people in from the past. But Venus's connection to your 7th house can also be a big shift in regards to your public status. The 10th house is the status. So with squares to Uranus and, also like Mars, your planet squaring Uranus, you really want to watch those squares because there's going to be challenges that you're either having with clients or that you're having with people at work, disagreements, not getting along, there being some friction, or there can be some actual problems that you're having in a relationship that is potentially on the verge of being aired out publicly. 7th and 10th house is fame. So some of you guys who are working with partners and you're in a relationship and you're having problems, it can affect your collaboration professionally. Equally, there can be some real challenges revolving around the state of, the future of that relationship and whether that becomes like public. It could be a business partner. It can be, clients as well. And your private life can get aired out. When your 12th house lord goes retrograde in the 10th, it can get aired out and somebody can be talking about things that have been going on, or they may, spill some truths, which can affect your public reputation or your career. I don't want to make this sound scary, but just letting you know, Venus wants to protect you, but being that Mars is going to square, it's almost like there's some tension and then a woman might come in and try to do some damage control or some like PR work or something to try to kind of make amends between you and other people. The card that came out for you was the 9 of Wands. And so this is a card that deals with perseverance, resilience, testing of faith, the final push, boundaries, the last stand, grit, close to success, and fatigue. So for many Scorpio risings, like really pushing to get to this point where you can have this big breakthrough in your career is happening. But it's come with blood, sweat, and tears, basically. So you're kind of getting to this point where it's like, okay, when am I going to get the recognition? When is there going to be the payoff? Like, when is this all going to kind of come together? And with great success is going to come lots of challenges because it's going to have an effect on your home life and it's going to have an effect on your relationships over the summer. So you're going to kind of start to see where it's like everything looks good out in the world, but it all kind of sometimes can come at a cost. So you're pushing through, you're going to see that continue to happen. I do see positive things in regards to your professional life. I think there's just going to be some challenges with other areas that are kind of giving and taking. We've got Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. You're going to have Venus going through the sign of Leo, a fellow sister sign, spending 4 months in your 9th house. So having some trines is lovely. You and Aries will both enjoy that. Venus has connections for you, Sag, to your 6th house, which is Taurus, which is about health and daily routine, and also your 11th house, which is about friends. So Venus is going into your 9th house. It's bringing more attention to travel, teachers, mentors, gurus, education, and also like beliefs. And I kind of feel like on one hand, it's about making more time in your schedule to be with friends, and like friends can help you through some issues, especially if you feel like you're having a bit of like a mini crisis when Venus goes retrograde in your 9th. There can be a sense of like really reevaluating what is life and what am I doing and why am I here? And like people come in to kind of help you feel supported. It can also bring up some challenges or delays with travel, and I foresee like issues with traveling or your schedules, and also either like work in the office space, not like overscheduling yourself or scheduling issues, or pets, because you're going to see several squares to your 6th house Uranus transit. Ooh. So the card that popped up for me is the Fool card. It's the other one. And the 3 of Swords. I wonder if this is going to be like a situation where, as much as I hate to say this, you're traveling in some way and maybe like you get some unsettling news, okay? Like I'm putting the Fool together with, where is it? There we go. The Fool together with the Three of Swords. Beginnings, adventure, spontaneity, you know, taking a fresh chance, leap of faith. This is a good thing. This basically means that you're like, here I go. And then you realize that there are some challenges and some hangups along the way that can be difficult, or something difficult involving travel or your beliefs or education. There's room for healing. I mean, I think the trines, you know, to your ascendant, sun or moon is really positive. I think that you're going to reap some rewards before you kind of start to see some issues, which will be later in July. But yeah, there can definitely be some challenges revolving around news that you get while you're traveling, or setbacks with traveling, or issues that are kind of inhibiting your ability to be able to like go somewhere. So watch for that. Okay, so this is going to be for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. We've got Venus going into your 8th house. This is all going to be bringing attention to your joint resources, money owed, inheritance, tax, spousal support, anything in regards to joint resources in general. Now, Venus going into this part of the skies can show you a much more steamy, kind of intimate transit. There can be opportunities for connecting with other people. I definitely think with Venus's connection to your 10th house of career, opportunities to bring in more money, to have bonuses, to have gains, and to really see like a transformation of the relationships that you have with other people and what they have to offer you. So Venus going through the 8th house can be really sweet because you can start to see some kind of improvement in your finances. Venus's connection also to Taurus, which is all about your 5th house, creativity, self-expression, is an interesting one because we are going to see squares that are going to be taking place between your 8th house and your 5th house. So for some of you guys becoming self-employed, the expenses relating to that, the taxes relating to that, to some of you guys who are having children or have children, the expenses relating to that. Insurance changes can happen, changes in regards to support with a partner. Somebody's paying for something or somebody's got income coming in, and then we start to see some challenges when Venus turns retrograde. For the most part, though, I like the connection to your 5th and your 10th house. I feel like you're learning how to communicate and express what you need more, especially if you're going to be making changes revolving around parenting or any changes revolving around your career. There has to be an adjustment and you're going to need more from other people. So you're going to be able to kind of communicate and talk about that. And finding a way to be able to go deeper in intimacy and in your, your relationships, or being able to tap more so into like self-expression. That's the vibe that I'm getting. Oh, wow. 9 of Wands again. So uphill battle, completing, you're almost done. There is a sense of, becoming aware of boundaries and like needing to have a final push to see something through. So maybe you've been waiting for inheritance. Maybe you've been waiting for a tax situation to clear out. Maybe you've been waiting for a big break at work and for you to get like a bonus, and like you're almost there. And so it looks like something's going to come through, but after a lot of like challenges and like trial and error. Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You're going to have Venus going into Leo in your natal 7th house of relationships. So Venus is happy there. She likes being in the 7th house. Obviously, Leo is very warm and loving. Mars is there as well. So you've probably seen some interesting dynamics where partners are saying they need more. Maybe people are walking right up to you and they're approaching you. They have more interest in you. And 7th house can be your relationship with friends, right? Not necessarily just romantic relationship. It can be with children. It can be, clients, therapists. But if you're married or if you're in a committed relationship, right, part of this retrograde is changes that are going on there. And for you, Venus is the ruler of your 4th house of home, Taurus, and it's also the ruler of your 9th house, which is connected to your beliefs and your philosophies. So there's something shifting around perhaps your beliefs about family and home and relationships. Maybe you've got family members that are moving in, moving out, moving further away. If you happen to be somebody who is on your 2nd marriage, I could also see that being somehow kind of connected, although the 7th house is the first, but the 9th house is your 2nd marriage. So regardless of how many times you've been married, once or twice, there's some kind of shift here going on where you're reevaluating one of those marriages. But I've seen it play out for a lot of Aquarius risings is it's about reevaluating the relationship with either a younger person, it can be one of your children, it can also be possibly even, I'll go with this card, it could be possibly even like a lover, like a playmate, it's possible. Yeah, 7th house is more committed though, so we'll see how that plays out for you. All the oppositions and the squares are particularly crazy for you because Pluto being in your sign is a lot of you saying to other people like, no, this isn't working for me. And you're like sending it back to the kitchen. So if you're telling people I'm going through a change, this isn't working for me, this is the shift that I need. If you're waiting to reconnect with some of these younger people, they can come back to you. Clients can come back to you, romantic partners can come back to you. The card that I got for you is Judgment. So yeah, I mean, Aquarius is going to be one of the signs that you're going to hear the most about in terms of romantic partners from the past coming back, hands down. But the Judgment card makes me feel like there's decisions that are being made, final decisions, stuff that's absolute. There can be revelations, wake-up calls, an awakening, this realization in regards to a situation in your relationships. So if you've been going back and forth, there's going to be a definitive decision that's going to be made. If you're really adamant about wanting to get back out there, a definitive decision might be made. Those of you guys who are like, I haven't had a love life, that retrograde can actually bring love back into your life and it can kind of shift things. But it's all going to be a result of making a big decision about something, right? Good luck. And now we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You're going to have Leo going into your natal 6th house. This is going to be interesting because, you know, Leo 6th house, on one hand, I think the key here is to make more time in your daily routines for either love or creativity or playtime. Factor that in some way because Venus going through your 6th house wants to do that. It's about servicing, taking care of other people. It can be animals. It can be younger people, younger children. Love can be found at work. That is doable. You might meet somebody unexpectedly and kind of hit it off in the lunchroom. Venus obviously has connections to both Libra and Taurus. So you've got Taurus being your 3rd house of communication, Libra being connected more so to your, hello, I'm having to count here, more so to your 8th house. So there's something changing and transforming 8th house about the way that you communicate, right? And communicating with people at work, the way that you're looking at also your schedule, the way that you're looking at what you can change, get rid of, detox, detoxing the mind, healing the digestion, healing habits, getting rid of habits, especially like Leo can be relationships with people, I think in the 6th house where you're just like, this is too much work, like this isn't good for my mind, I gotta let this go. Yeah. And what I have for you is also like your office space changing. So you might change offices, you might redecorate your office. There might be somebody who's been away that was an employee that comes back. Okay, so you might have someone that you used to work with and they come back. What else? And you want to watch for habits because Venus can be about indulging. So I'm wondering, like, are you indulging in things too much? And then you realize like, whoa, I need to lay off the sugar, or, you know, I'm kind of drinking too much, or I'm partying too much. That can definitely happen when the retrograde ends up happening. But for the most part, I think it's going to bring in helpful people, healers, you know, other people who can help take care of your health, your pets, or getting things done. Childcare things can come up too. Like if you have somebody that comes in and helps take care of your children or watch your children, there can be changes there where you can kind of switch the people who are watching your kids, or you can, you know, switch a personal assistant. You could change gyms, right? That could be something else that could happen. All right, let's take a look and see what the cards say. And we also, oh, we have the Hangman. Okay, cool. I thought that was the Fool again. So this is about pause, surrender, letting go, reflecting, taking a moment before you make a decision. I feel like if this is about health stuff, because Venus does want to protect health, but when it goes retrograde, there can be some challenges. It's about taking time out to rest and recuperate. You already know this because Saturn's in your 1st house, but I could also see this as like an opportunity for you to kind of like really reevaluate the changes that you're making with your health and your routine, and seeing if it has a more positive impact on your emotions, right? And how you're feeling in your day-to-day life. Not jumping to any conclusions, and if you do have any weird health stuff that comes up through the transit, getting a second opinion and also trying other things to see if those particular ailments can be healed. All right, so that's it for my Venus entering Leo. Little bit all over the place, but there was a lot of ground to cover. So if you guys liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, let me know what you're feeling about the retrograde. Let me know what you're feeling about the Venus-Uranus squares. I always like to hear other people's predictions and your guys' theories. Do consider joining my webinar if you guys want on the 11th of June. I hope to see you there and give you more information about what to expect, particularly with the retrograde side of things. And if you guys would like to get a personal reading with me, check out my links below. You can go to my website. I offer reports, live one-on-one sessions via Zoom, and most Fridays I am here doing live readings, and I will be back here next Friday doing live astrology readings. So if you guys like my work and you want to support me, you can join my memberships and you can get a reading once a month on the channel, your choice, tarot or astrology, so you can kind of keep up with some of the stuff that's going on with the cosmos. Links in the description for everything else if you guys want to look at my books, my courses, or anything else that I have to offer. All right, that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I will see you guys back here on Sunday for Astro Weather. And enjoy that full moon that's coming. Enjoy the full moon. I'll see all of you guys soon. Take care.